Fellow Zionists, thank you for joining Jewish National Fund USA's weekly briefing. I am Saul Lisbrand, president of Jewish National Fund USA. It is day 159 of the war in Israel. 130 hostages remain in captivity. 32 of those hostages have been confirmed dead by the Israeli Defense Forces. The ground toll of slain troops has risen to 249. These are difficult figures to comprehend, let alone accept. But I want to share some other numbers with you. Over 1,500 people have registered for our volunteer missions to travel to Israel and work throughout the South, farming, planting, weeding, packing, supporting. Over 1,600 support packages have been purchased by our donors, or as JNF refers to donors, as partners. These packages have been delivered to soldiers and evacuee families around the country. Through their participation in providing products for these support packages, small businesses in the Israel's north and south have directly received over $350,000. This has supported businesses dependent on tourism, an industry we know is suffering greatly right now. We will slowly shift to counting the number of communities welcoming back residents, as well as the number of rebuilt parks and homes. And we thank you for your continued support and engagement as our hearts remain with Israel. Our first guest today is Gil Hoffman. Gil is the executive director of HonestReporting, which fights for Israel in the international mainstream and social media. Gil is a lecturer on political strategy at Israel's College of Management, and he served as the chief political correspondent and analyst for the Jerusalem Post for 24 years. He was recently named as one of the top 100 people positively influencing Jewish life, alongside President Biden and Zelensky and Prime Ministers Sunak and Netanyahu. Among his many notable accomplishments, Gil recently made history in Hawaii, becoming the first speaker to have lectured about Israel in all 50 U.S. states. Gil lives with his family in Jerusalem, and we're so pleased to welcome him to our weekly briefing. Gil?
Thank you, Saul. Can everybody hear me? I hope so. I want to thank all the supporters of JNF for what they're doing to help Israel in this very, very difficult time. When I've been in the South, I've seen so many JNF volunteers there who have been, and I don't know where Israel would be without them. So thank you to each and every one of you who've come here on a JNF mission since October 7th for all the good that you've done. And I'm sorry that it takes terrible tragedies that bring out the best in us sometimes, but we've really seen the best of the people who care about Israel from around the world who've come under the auspices of JNF. And I will always be grateful to JNF because I went to Alaska and Hawaii with the blessing of Russell Robinson, and so many friends are on this trip, are on this briefing right now. It's great seeing so many faces and names of people that have helped me all around America. But for me, it was important to go not only to southern Israel and see where I could help, but also to go into Gaza itself. I have a cousin who was the commander of ground forces in Khan Yunis, and he brought me in there and gave me a tour. And I'm really glad that he did, because until then, what I'd been saying is that in this war, there have been surprising successes that I'll get to shortly on the media battlefield, but on the military battlefield, it's not going so well. And the reason why I was saying that was, our hostages aren't home, and most of the leaders of Hamas are still with us. And I wish that would change as soon as possible. But going there and seeing for myself, I got to see how much the army had accomplished in what might seem like a long period of time, but it's actually incredible how quickly they did it. If you think about how the Hamas prepared for this attack already for 16 years, day in and day out, building Gaza as the biggest fortress of terror in the history of mankind, while our preparations were pretty much nothing. On October 6th at 2 p.m., ahead of a speaking tour that brought me to some cities for JNF, I had a VIP one-on-one briefing with a security official very close to the prime minister. And we went through the different threats facing Israel. And when he got to Hamas at the very end, what he said was that they were restrained. He suggested they were out of the terror business. They hadn't entered the last few wars between Israel and Islamic Jihad. That what they cared about was the amount of workers coming into Israel, which was supposed to double and triple via the agreement that Israel was working on reaching with Saudi Arabia. And so we were coming from zero, and the other side coming from so many preparations. The fact that Israel has accomplished this much, that all of Gaza, except for a couple parts in the center, and Rafah are conquered, is actually very impressive. This was my fourth visit to Gaza. I first came as a teen on a program that took us to the Palm Beach Hotel in Gaza. People don't really think about white sandy beaches when they think about Gaza, but they're there. And they have so much potential if it had been handled right. The second time I came was as a journalist following around some Israeli politicians to Yasser Arafat's office. And also there, they talked about peace, and we never came anywhere close to that. The third time I came was as a soldier. I was in the spokesman's unit of the IDF when we withdrew from Gaza. I took around a couple of journalists from the New York Times and from Fox together. They were even married and still are, opposites attract. And we talked about how Gaza could become the Singapore of the Mediterranean. And it certainly didn't turn out that way, but it could have. Israel was moving full speed ahead with the Saudi agreement as October 7th approached that could have improved the lives of the Palestinians there tremendously. But I am impressed that unlike past wars in Gaza that lasted only a few days before the international pressure came, it's been allowed to go on for 159 days in order to accomplish so much. So how did this happen? The most obvious answer is that the world saw what happened on October 7th, the terrible atrocities, and realized that this is the most justified war imaginable. The second reason is because the leaders of the top countries in the world realize that terror has to be defeated or it'll strike them. A proxy of Iran, like Hamas, has to be defeated to enable peace processes to happen and for the Abraham Accords to expand. And we hope that if Israel defeats terror in a significant kind of way, there won't be more September 11th and 7/7s and Bataclans. The third reason why I think this war has been allowed by the international community to go on for so long is because they saw the way we were so divided before the war. We were well on our way to what would have been the 13th civil war in the history of the Jewish people. Yom Kippur, people physically coming to blows in the streets of Tel Aviv over whether to have a prayer divider in their prayers. And they see the contrast to the way the people of Israel united immediately after the war in such a beautiful kind of way. And while our divisions are coming out again right now, still we are united behind the need for Hamas to be defeated completely and for the hostages to come home. But I'll suggest another reason why this war has been allowed to go on for so long. And that's that winning on the media battlefield is the key to winning on the military battlefield. And there have been surprising successes in this war. First of all, by the IDF itself. The IDF has learned lessons from mistakes that they made in the past. I'll take you back. May 2021, there was a war in Gaza. Israel destroyed a tower that housed the offices of the Associated Press and of Al Jazeera. And of course, we gave an hour for everybody to leave the building, which no army ever did in the history of mankind. but it also gave an hour for it to be filmed from every possible angle. And Israel looked terrible around the world. And the heads of the army didn't think it was important to reveal to the world that this tower was the cyber tower of Hamas. It was jamming Iron Dome, and taking it down saved lives. They didn't let the spokesman's unit reveal this until the war was already long done and nobody was paying any attention anymore. In this war, you saw what happened when the media bought what the Hamas was telling them, that we had bombed a hospital in Gaza and killed exactly 500 people, and mostly women and children. I mean, we have Floridians here who remember how long it took to count how many people died in Surfside, but the world believed Hamas as if it was gospel from Jesus. And the IDF, it took them 4 hours to present to the world solid proof that we didn't do it, that it was an errant rocket that fizzled from the cemetery next to the hospital that was fired by Islamic Jihad. And I wish it could be 4 seconds. That's how it should be in this global world. But in the past, it would have taken 4 weeks. 4 hours was actually very impressive. The chief of staff of the army and the commander of the Air Force stayed up all night because they realized how important this is. And it's not just the army, ordinary people. I'm sure that the hundreds of people on this call and the thousands that are going to see it later, all of you in one way or another have posted pro-Israel material on social media, and I truly believe that it's gone a long way. Now, because of what's going on in this war, I'm glad that a year and a half ago I gave up the job that I loved, covering politics for the Jerusalem Post. I'm probably the only one who's left the Knesset after more than 20 years without an indictment. But I left because I was given this opportunity to lead the fight for Israel on that media battlefield. And since I did that, we at Honest Reporting, which leads that fight, have gotten 10 Hitler and Hamas praising anti-Semitic journalists fired around the world, including 3 from the New York Times, 2 from AP, 2 from CNN, including in this war and other wars in Gaza. In August 2022, there was a war in Gaza, and it was only 2.5 days because the world's pressure came. And so I asked my team when the war ended, who covered this war? There's no freedom of the press in Gaza. And they found that the guy who covered that war for the New York Times had written on his social media in Arabic that Jews are sons of dogs, and he's in favor of killing all of them, including the elderly and the young, like Hitler did. Now, that led to finding more people at the New York Times who were fired then in August 2022. The New York Times rehired one of the people who praised Hitler on October 8th. Until we highlighted this and people started saying to the New York Times on social media, you hired a Nazi to cover a war of annihilation against the Jews? And the same thing happened with the guy in this war writing for AP who had written on social media that the Jews have to be annihilated. And then we started questioning, how did the photographers get there so early on October 7th to take pictures of soldiers being dragged from tanks that then got burned? And then we found out very quickly one of the photographers was best friends with Yihya Sinwar, who you could see kissing him over here. And he got fired by CNN and AP, thanks to us. And then a couple months later, we found a video of these photographers who were bragging that they were there in Sderot from the very beginning, as they were taking out the men, doing what they wanted to do with the women and killing the dogs, and telling the people of Gaza, you got to come in. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And those photographers for AP and Reuters, their pictures were in their compilations of the top photos of the year of 2023. And so it was really important to highlight this. At the beginning, people asked us, how dare you question these photographers? You're endangering them. You have no proof. Well, last Thursday, the top investigative television news show in Israel, Uvda, their host Ilana Dayan, revealed a Hamas document that had all of what they intended to do on October 7th. And one of the things they wrote there was that they would be using the journalists to get their messages out. So that smoking gun was revealed last week. And all of this is helping the people who are fighting on social media. Our content got seen by 4 million people in 2022 and up to 123 million in 2023, of which 45% are under 25 and 90% under 45. And that's important because when we were growing up, when we wanted basic facts, we would go to encyclopedias. Young people nowadays haven't heard of those. Nowadays, when we want a basic fact, we Google it. But among young people, more than half don't use Google as their search engine. They use the search engine of TikTok, Instagram at best. And if you go and Google what is Zionism, you get relatively parved things from dictionary.com and Wikipedia. But if you TikTok what is Zionism, you get things with a hashtag of Free Palestine and a hashtag of Allahu Akbar. Today, Congress voted to ban TikTok, but it still has a long legislative process. And that creates an important challenge for us because if that's where people are getting their news who are young, it's no wonder that in the poll in November, they found that more than half of them thought that Israel should be destroyed and the attacks of October 7th were justified. Thankfully, that same polling company, their poll in February found that 72% of young people and 82% of Americans in general support what Israel is doing. That means that we're getting the education out there. And that is what matters for the future. So I want to thank all the people on this call for doing what they can to help Israel win that fight on the media battlefield. I know that JNF leads that fight in so many ways with the educational component of JNF that's so successful, and that I've been proud to speak for all over America. I'm going to be back in America in May, and in October, please contact the Global Speakers Bureau led by Virag, that is so wonderful. Or contact your local people, JNF leaders who will then contact Virag in order to reach me, because I love JNF and I'd be happy to speak for you more. Thank you very much.
So Gil, thank you very much. And what Honest Reporting does, it's remarkable how much work you've done. And also thank you for mentioning the word today, success. We don't hear that often from our speakers. So we appreciate that very much. And, just like Gil said, I want to note that Gil is a member of the JNF Global Speakers Bureau, and you can reach out to us to help bring him to your community. Visit us at jnfglobalspeakers.org. Our next guest needs little introduction. Talia Tzour Avner is the Jewish National Fund USA's Chief of Staff in Israel. Since October 7th, Talia has overseen the organization's efforts to support the communities and the residents of the Israel envelope who were evacuated, working with regional councils, communities, leaders, and residents of the area to ensure that those affected get the support they need. Talia, thank you as always for joining us and sharing an update on the impact of our efforts in Israel. Talia?
Thank you, Saul, and thank you, Gil, again for your warm words and for encouraging us and appreciating what we're doing on the ground. We're really on the ground in Israel, and it is a success to be on the ground. And the only way to deal with the traumatized people and communities and the atmosphere in Israel is to work on the ground and to start rehabilitating the area and bringing back the people home. Gary, can you share my slide, my PowerPoint, please? Thank you. So let's just remind ourselves. I don't know, Gary, can they see my arrow? Yes. We're just reminding ourselves where is Gaza Strip and where Gil traveled 4 times. I was listening to you carefully. And we will zoom in to see what's on the ground. What's on the ground wrapping Gaza Strip. The Gaza envelope, or today we call it the Israel envelope, is different regional municipalities from Chof Ashkelon. You all heard about Nativ HaAsara. Nativ HaAsara is located here. To Sha'ar HaNegev, Kfar Aza is located over here. To the city of Sderot, this is the purple triangle. To Sdot Negev with Netivot over here. To Eshkol region, which is the largest region in the area with the longest border with the Gaza Strip. You all heard about Kibbutz Be'eri, which is all the way on the northern part of Eshkol region. Re'im, the Nova Party, the Nature Party, is located over here. Kisufim, those of you who have been active with JNF for years know the communities of Chalutza on the border of Egypt, Bnei Netzarim, Naveh, and Shlomit. And we've been active in this area for more than 2 decades, trying to populate it, to strengthen the communities, to bring more people, more families to move to this area and to improve the quality of life. So we were familiar with the area, with the residents, with the mayors, with everyone, and we knew whom to contact. So it's not a secret that during the 3 first weeks of the war, we were helping evacuate people from the area to other regions and other municipalities throughout Israel, and especially in the Negev. We have been then helping the absorbing communities, Mitzpe Ramon, Yerucham, Arad, Central Arava, Eilot region, and so on, with the hosting of the communities. Communities have doubled their population, and we had to help them, you know, with everything from mattresses to hot meals to vests and helmets to shelters, to medical equipment, mental health, and so on. We've been able to raise above and beyond our annual campaign another $59 million. We had already have 22,000 new people who did not know Jewish National Fund, who joined our campaign and supporting Israel. So in the last, and we know exactly where the money went, who did we support, how much money we are going to give to the rehabilitation of the region, and everything is really in order. So what we've done in the last, I would say, 2 months, as soon as we could enter again to the area, we started to map the needs of the communities. We knew we cannot go now to Be'eri to start rehabilitate the Be'eri, where 200 houses out of the 380 that they have over there are totally destroyed. And so is Kfar Aza. But there are many other communities. Can you see my arrow? Many other communities that are not by the border, that people express their willingness to move back and to have a home. You cannot live in a hotel with 3-4 kids for 5 months. You lose your job, there's no education, there's no salary, you don't have your kitchen, and you don't have your intimacy. So we started to map these areas and to travel day after day, from Tze'elim to Gvulot, to Talmei Eliyahu and Tzour, to Shlomit, Naveh, Bnei Netzarim, to each and every community to see what is it that they need. But not only with the communities, also with the regional councils, to see what powerful, impactful initiatives JNF can initiate in the area so that people will come back home and have all the services that they need. And I'm going back to the previous slide. We started to work in Sha'ar HaNegev with Bror Chayil, with Erez, Or HaNer, temporary school for the entire region, Erez, the beautiful park that we rehabilitate, the hydrotherapy center, in Mivtachim, in Tzour, in Gvulot, and the most important thing that the people said that they need, after security, which is in the hands of the, I'm sorry, let me go back to my map. After security, people want education. And we've been helping these communities in Or HaNer, in Bror Chayil, in Gvulot, in Kibbutz Gvulot, to open temporary schools for the entire region. We clean the area. Guys, areas that are neglected for 3-4 months, they're not only, dirty. You need to paint it, to clean it, to plant, to equip the temporary schools, and so on and so forth. So we have prepared the ground for the kids to come back, and almost 2,000 kids came back, going to elementary school and high school in the regions with their families, with their parents, with their grandparents, and the area started to look different. It is our goal to bring by the end of March more than 10,000 people back to the region. In addition to that, since December, first of all, we built a strategic plan for the day after, with the leadership of our CEO and the entire board of Jewish National Fund, to deal with the needs of the area. We've been bringing a volunteers mission every week to Israel with more than 200 people, so that not only professionals will be those who are dealing with the rehabilitation of the communities, but the people themselves. It is not only important because we're cleaning or painting or planting in the area. It is important because we are connecting the people, the American people who come to Israel, with the Israelis, a connection that is beyond words and has a value for generations. On one hand, the Israelis are asking the Americans, why are you here? Why are you coming in the middle of the war? And on the other hand, the Americans hugging the Israelis, telling them, we are with you. We are partners. And they've been all over in Or HaNer and Miftachim and Kibbutz Erez. Am I able to move the slides? And picking oranges and picking lemons and painting the classrooms and the tables in Kibbutz Gvulot, as I said before. Hold on. In Kibbutz Erez, in Sderot. We built in 2008 an indoor playground in Sderot for the kids for a few months, because there was a cycle of rockets from Gaza Strip to Sderot. Who would believe that until 2024, this place is still in so much need for the kids? And we just 2 weeks ago, we reopened it. 600 kids came and hugged each other because they haven't seen each other for almost 5 months. And these people that you see, these are the JNF people, supporters that come to Israel and working on the ground. We accompanied the people of Shlomit who've been away 4 months. 4 months they were in Jerusalem with our help. We helped them to evacuate, but we also welcomed them back home last week, and it was covered all over the media in Israel. Or HaNer, we spoke about it. And the volunteers mission, you are more than welcome to join. We have volunteer missions going until the end of the year, and hopefully even longer, because this has been proved as a big success. Gil, I'm repeating your word success today again. And as I said, we're not only dealing with the communities, we're building big initiatives, powerful initiatives that will leverage the entire area and will turn this area to paradise again, so that people will come back and say, look, we have the best sports center in Israel, and we have the best emergency and response centers and resilience centers and parks and aquatic centers. And we're working with many groups, civilians and government, to make it happen and to bring this area back to life. And I'm ending with our vision and our mantra. Jewish National Fund has been there yesterday, is there today, and will be there forever. Thank you very much for your help. Without your help, we wouldn't have been able over here in Israel to do what we do on the ground. And yes, we need you mentally. We need you here on the ground. We need your support, and we appreciate it. Toda rabba.
So, Talia, thank you. Thank you to your whole staff for your tireless efforts. And as I've said before, Lauren and I were on the first volunteer mission, and we've been on dozens and dozens of missions with the JNF, but nothing compares to the volunteer mission. So Maybe some of our listeners get tired of hearing that, but it's something remarkable. So thank you, Tali. And to learn more on the impact you are having on the ground, visit jnf.org/support Israel. You can read stories of resilience and strength in our latest edition of the JNF-USA B'Yachad magazine, which hits your mailbox this month. And you can also read it at jnf.org/B'Yachad. Those links are all placed in the chat. As always, we encourage you to travel to Israel with us on a volunteer working mission. We continue to sell out these missions and have added, as Tali said, dates through December of this year. Visit jnf.org/volunteer-IL to learn more and to register. We will see you next week, March 20th, at the same time. I'm Israel Chai.